Terrorist groups in Gaza are continuing to fire rockets into southern Israel for a fourth consecutive day. Now over 160 mortars and rockets have rained down on the communities of southern Israel since Saturday. More than 24 Israelis have been treated for shock, others for shrapnel wounds. At least 7 Palestinians have died and 36 injured in Israeli airstrikes. Now, this latest round of violence has many people here in Israel asking whether the army may launch another ground invasion in Gaza, much like Operation Cast Lead back in 2008. We sat down with an expert to talk about the likelihood of that. Compared to past flare-ups, Israeli leaders are giving the impression this time that a larger-scale military operation in Gaza is a viable option. Prime Minister Netanyahu held a special meeting with his security cabinet on Tuesday to discuss the options. He said later Israel will exact a heavy price from Gaza terrorists and hit back at the right time. Defense Minister Ehud Barak toured the Gaza border. He promised the IDF will strengthen and reinforce its deterrence. He refused to give any more details, saying he didn't want to aid the other side. But with Israeli elections coming up in January, some political experts say the risk of another war in Gaza will be too high.
A ground invasion would serve the government or disserve the government. If there are many casualties, I'm not sure whether the government will be happy about it. And nobody can tell. Targeted killing, yes, we can do it. But invasion, soldiers are killed. I mean, they're not immune.
Israel must also contend with Egypt's new leadership under the Muslim Brotherhood, who see Hamas as an ally, not as a common enemy like former President Hosni Mubarak. Egypt has already threatened to withdraw their ambassador from Israel if troops go into Gaza. Many in Egypt have called on President Morsi to nullify the peace treaty with Israel amid increasing anti-Israel sentiment. It's a trend that would surely only grow with a new war in Gaza.
And Israel doesn't want to undermine relations with Egypt, which is very, very important.
Israel also risks international isolation. Many of the world's media outlets fail to cover the damage rockets inflict on the lives of nearly 1 million Israelis. Will media coverage be fair if so many don't understand the danger and mental anguish of those living with red alarm sirens and rockets?
Oh yes, they live under constant threat. Especially kids are, have all kinds of problems sleeping or during the day, and not very many people were affected, but people are very much concerned, very much afraid of the results of it, and are shaken, especially when it happened.
And it happens. Rockets fall almost every week. For now, most experts agree a ground invasion of Gaza is unlikely. Instead, Israel will increase its airstrikes and return to targeted assassinations of high-ranking terrorists in Gaza. But that's not a long-term solution.
The point is, there is no good solution. It's between bad and worse. And this, killing one another, this is a very, very bad solution. Talking maybe under the circumstance and within a regional strategy, this can lead to some sort of settlement, even if the Hamas doesn't recognize Israel. We don't need the recognition.
Some argue the only long-term solution for Gaza is a political one, not a military one. Advocates in this camp say Israel should negotiate directly with Hamas.
Hamas should join with PLO to negotiate with Israel, because Israel cannot negotiate only with 2/3 of the Palestinian nation, which is the West Bank and Abu Mazen. Hamas will be part of it, and the way to do it is also to involve Egypt and Turkey, because they are two Muslim nations, Muslim regimes, and they are close to the Hamas. They can influence this.
Other political pundits say that's a tall order. Hamas can't get along with the Palestinian Authority's Fatah, let alone Israel. And the terrorist group remains staunchly hostile to the Jewish state. Some insiders, however, say Hamas may accept negotiations over a Palestinian state and give up hopes of a greater Palestine. Israeli leaders are now hoping a newly announced ceasefire by Hamas will hold and quiet will be restored to the south. Jordana Miller, JN1, Jerusalem.